This is bad news to Iran. My friends, we're going to this. All signs point to war. The US versus Iran. Look, real talk, war always bad, no doubt about that, but not being prepared for war is even worse. And I believe Iran will find out that America is very well prepared. But before we go into that, let me ask you for one thing. If you can leave a like, thank you so much. Is the best way to show support. Now, if you can subscribe, well, in that case, forget about it. You make my day. Have that in consideration. Link for the original video in my description, and let's play it.
A US versus Iran war is transforming rapidly from a possibility to a probability, with all signs now suggesting that the American military is close to joining the fight. The only question left is, when will the US make its entry?
Okay, basically I was watching the news here and they are reporting exactly the same thing, my friends. That is a question of time. At the moment I'm recording this, America is still not at war with Iran, but a lot of people believe it will happen.
Joining the fight. The only question left is...
Actually, my friends, since we are at the beginning of the video, tell me in the comments how you feel about this. I believe a lot of people will say, of course, there is strong reasons to fight them. Other people may disagree, may think that's not American problem or something. I don't know, it's a sensitive topic, as you can imagine. I will always be Team America, no matter the decision.
When will the US make its entry? But one thing seems certain, the countdown has well and truly begun. For a long time, there was much doubt around whether or not the US would take an active role in this fight, with American President Donald Trump pushing for a peaceful resolution between Iran and Israel since taking office earlier this year.
So honestly, I saw, I believe was a tweet from Trump, and it was official, by the way. Trump basically said that if they want to kill the supreme leader of Iran, they can do it. My friends, is this actually true? So they know where the guy is?
The president has made repeated attempts to strike a deal with Iran, urging the country to end its nuclear program before it's too late. A mere month ago.
Honestly, to be fair, my friends, America gave them 60 days, from what I understand. So they didn't come to the table, they didn't accept the deal. I mean, you are trying to mess with America. Honestly, even trying to mess with Israel is crazy because Israel is kind of strong, not American strong. I'm aware of that, but they are struggling against Israel. So imagine if America really goes in, Iran will be gone.
Urging the country to end its nuclear program before it's too late. A mere month ago, he spoke hopefully of peace and prosperity across the Middle East, stating,
"For the first time in 1,000 years, the world will look at this region not as a place of turmoil and strife and war and death, but as a land of opportunity and hope."
Trump even urged Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, not to attack Iran and give him more time to negotiate. But Israel clearly had other plans in mind. On June 13, it launched Operation Rising Lion, striking targets in Tehran and other locations across Iran, beginning an ongoing and rapidly escalating conflict between the two nations.
So I could be wrong here, my friends, but Israel and America have a really strong relationship. And if you look at history, it's quite obvious. But this is just my opinion. Take with a grain of salt. I actually believe Israel thought that America will automatically have their back, you know, and that didn't happen automatic. So I don't know. I think even Israel is a bit surprised by this.
Beginning an ongoing and rapidly escalating conflict between the two nations. In the wake of the Israeli attack, the US was quick to call the decision a unilateral one in a statement from the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, which read, "Tonight, Israel took unilateral action against Iran. We're not involved in strikes against Iran, and our top priority is protecting American forces in the region." However, in that very same statement, Rubio also suggested that the US would not shy away from taking action if Iran dared target US people or interests. He wrote,
Sorry, my friends, but the B-2 bomber is so beautiful.
If Iran dared target US people or interests. He wrote, President Trump and the administration have taken all necessary steps to protect our forces and remain in close contact with our regional partners. Let me be clear, Iran should not target US interests or personnel. Things often change quickly in times of war, and only a few days since the first strikes were fired, the US position appears to have shifted away from focusing on peaceful talks and negotiations towards full-scale military conflict. And there are now several clear signs that the country is ready to enter the fray. Arguably, the biggest and clearest of those signs is the movement of multiple US forces and some serious military hardware into the region. On Monday, June 16,
So I saw that they send the aircraft carrier to waters close to them. Is this true or not?
confirmed reports reveal that the US Navy is sending its super carrier, USS Nimts, as well as its accompanying strike group to the Middle East. The lead ship of the Nimitz class, USS Nimts, is one of the biggest warships in the world, as well as the oldest serving aircraft carrier on the planet. It measures up at more than 1,000 feet and is capable of carrying up to 90 fixed-wing aircraft and helicopters in total. It's also fitted with multiple armaments of its own, including 2 anti-aircraft and anti-missile Sea Sparrow weapon systems, a pair of RIM 116 rolling airframe missile ram systems.
I would quit. Honestly, Iran, real talk, my friends, nothing against you, but if you see those, the music that you guys need to listen is what you're gonna do when they come for you. The answer is nothing, just run away.
2 Phalanx CIWS Gatling guns, 4 Mk38 25mm autocannon turrets, and 10 .50 caliber turret emplacements. This powerful nuclear-powered super carrier forms the focal point of the Nimitz carrier strike group. According to the most recent data, this strike group includes no less than 4 guided missile destroyer vessels, and it's common to have at least 1 fast attack submarine accompanying Navy carriers of this kind too. Meanwhile,
so the entire family is there. Yeah, this is really bad news.
riding on board the carrier itself, there's the Carrier Air Wing 17, which also forms part of the Nimitz carrier strike group. This air wing is made up of multiple squadrons of FA-18F Super Hornet fighter jets, which are some of the fastest and strongest in the world, and Sikorsky MH-60S Seahawk helicopters. There's also a squadron of EA-18G Growlers, which are electronic warfare aircraft capable of disrupting enemy communications and surveillance systems, along with Northrop Grumman E-2 Hawkeye airborne early warning aircraft, used to detect the likes of enemy missile strikes, ships, vehicles, and aircraft on approach. In short,
so my friends, I was looking at something on Twitter and someone ended up posting that Iran ended up shooting down a F-35, and I was like, oh my god, really? The F-35? It was AI. But I thought, if this actually ended up happening, this would be devastating for America, right? Because they could reverse engineer a lot of technology. But it was fake, to be fair. But I was like, oh no, there is no... The F-35 really... Of course, it was fake.
The Nimitz carrier strike group is a force to be reckoned with more than enough firepower on board and in the water to deal some serious damage. According to reports, plans had been in place for quite a while to deploy the Nimitz to the Middle East ahead of its retirement in April 2026. However, those...
Also, this one will retire, really? But it is still an amazing one. I see, that's the thing I don't get. America retires a lot of stuff when they are still top quality for most countries. Well, I guess that's the point, right? For most countries, not for the US.
Plans have been brought forward, with the Nimitz making the journey several months ahead of schedule, according to Jennifer Griffin, Chief National Security.
So basically, it's kind of like this. Since we are going to, let this one go soon, we better have some fun with this, let's see.
Journey several months ahead of schedule, according to Jennifer Griffin, Chief National Security Correspondent for Fox News, who wrote on X, "The US Nimitz aircraft carrier strike group is on its way to the Middle East from the South China Sea," a US official tells Fox News. The Nimitz was previously scheduled to replace the USS Carl Vincent carrier strike group, which has been deployed for several months, but is now heading to the Middle East ahead of schedule. 2 super carriers and their strike groups in the same region. That's a rare sight, and one that should send ripples of fear across Iran. It's also a sign in the eye
across the world, my friends. Honestly, it's kind of scary, you know, because of the destruction those things can do. Oh boy.
of many military experts.
Yeah, specific because of the things they have submarines around, destroyers. Damn.
Of impending US military action in the region. Just like the Nimitz, the USS Carl Vincent brings guided missile destroyers as part of its strike group, as well as powerful fighter jets, attack helicopters, electronic warfare systems, surveillance craft and more. Strike groups like these are immensely versatile, capable of providing both offensive and defensive support as needed. The air wings of the Nimitz and Carl Vincent groups, for example, could be tasked with intercepting aerial threats or obtaining aerial superiority in contested airspace, or to launch precise missile strikes on ground or sea-based targets. The surveillance and airborne early warning craft, meanwhile, could help both US and Israeli forces preempt any Iranian missile or drone strikes and take protective measures. In other words, the mere presence of these carriers in the area could help to neutralize a large part of Iran's offensive capabilities, putting the country at a serious disadvantage while strengthening Israel's position. And there's more bad news for Iran, because the USS Nimts is not the only piece of US military hardware on its way to the area. Late on Sunday night, a large formation of American aerial refueling aircraft, including more than 30 KC.
Oh, I thought this was the... No, never mind. I thought this was the B-1 bomber.
KC-135 Strato tankers and KC-46 Pegasus tankers were spotted heading east. The tankers took off from various locations around the US and in other parts of the world, with many traveling across the Atlantic Ocean to take up new positions in various locations around Europe and elsewhere. Various flight
Damn, they need to be so precise for that.
Tracking accounts on X charted the progress of the tankers, with one counting at least 32 in total. They wrote, "With the addition of 4 tankers out of New Jersey, there are now at least 32 tankers observed in the overnight group. A considerable portion went to Moron Air Base in Spain, with others on to UK, Germany, Italy, and one to Estonia. A few pressed on to CENTCOM AOR. Tankers like these do
Oh, my friends, they are preparing something. There is no way.
Position from time to time or carry out training and ferrying operations as needed, but it's extremely unusual to see so many of them traveling at the same time and in the same direction like this. Indeed, various online military analysts and reporters could find no links between these movements and any scheduled air exercises, with many concluding that could only be a sign of strategic repositioning, possibly in preparation or expectation of upcoming military action. Tankers like these are vital in sustaining and empowering mobile strike platforms, and both the KC-135 and KC-46 rank among the most efficient and effective craft in their category, capable of delivering tens of thousands of pounds of fuel to the likes of fighters, bombers, surveillance aircraft, and even other tankers as needed.
Honestly, it really feels like they are preparing the ground for massive destruction. Of course, that I hope it's not true, to be fair, because at the end of the day, a lot of innocent people will die, right? But I hope if America goes in, I hope it's very precise, you know, because let's be real, the people on Iran, they are victims, most of them, of course, are victims of the government, you know, of the regime.
Allow aircraft to continuously operate far from home base and deep behind enemy lines without.
And I also hope there is no boots on the ground from America, because I think a lot of you guys would agree with that, right? Putting American soldiers at risk here, I think is not the best idea, specifically because America, have the best jets in the world, the best bombers, they can be so precise. I hope they really use that in their favor.
Aircraft to continuously operate far from home base and deep behind enemy lines, without having to retreat and travel huge distances to land, refuel, and take off again. They also make it much easier for jets and bombers to carry large payloads without having to worry about fuel efficiency or range, since there's always a huge stock of fuel ready and waiting on the tankers. This is invaluable when it comes to conducting extensive and impactful military maneuvers far from home. It makes it much easier for aerial forces to maintain pressure on their targets and dominate the skies uninterrupted. Recent days have also seen destroyers like the USS Thomas Hudner, USS Arleigh Burke, and the USS The Sullivans making their way to the eastern Mediterranean Sea. According to reports, the Arleigh Burke and the Sullivans have already assisted in defending Israel by launching missile interceptors. The US has also provided land support to Israel, possibly in the form of Patriot surface-to-air missile batteries or Terminal High Altitude Area Defense THAAD systems. Plus,
I actually saw in the news that America was helping Israel when it comes to the Iron Dome, because the Iron Dome was failing to intercept a lot of stuff, and America was shooting down some missiles.
just over a week ago, on June 9, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky revealed that the US had rerouted around 20,000 anti-drone missiles, which were originally due to go to Ukraine to the Middle East. It's highly likely that these have...
I said missiles. I meant to say missiles. Gonna speak American, sorry.
...will be used to help defend Israel from Iranian missile strikes. While detailed reports and official statements are sparse at the moment, the evidence is plain to see. The US is making all the necessary moves to not merely support Israel, but prepare for military action of its own in Iran. A recent State Department statement...
Yeah, this does not feel like support, seems a bit more than that.
Released on June 16 reinforces this theory. It warns all US citizens against travel to Iran, instructing those that are already there to either leave now or get ready to take shelter. US citizens should not travel to Iran for any reason and should depart Iran immediately if they are there. US citizens who are unable to depart Iran should be prepared to shelter in place for extended periods.
But I don't think this tells you a lot, because, Israel was already bombing that, so I think this message wouldn't make sense either way.
Citizens in Iran face serious increasing dangers due to rising regional tensions. The US government does not have diplomatic or consular relations with the Islamic Republic of Iran.
To be fair, that one is a bit more specific, because... that one is a bit more weird, because if the fight is between Israel and Iran, they should not target US people there. Well, but to be fair, my friends, don't take me wrong right now, but I believe a lot of countries in the Middle East hate America. Let's all be honest here.
Not long after that statement was issued, US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared a statement of his own on X. Over the weekend, I directed the deployment of additional capabilities to the United States Central Command Area of Responsibility. Protecting US forces is our top priority, and these deployments are intended to enhance our defensive posture in the region. And perhaps the most worrying warning of all came from the most powerful man on the planet.
What the hell? Okay, what? Donald Trump said something crazy?
President Trump. The president had been attending a G7 summit, but chose to leave earlier than scheduled. French President Emmanuel Macron claimed that Trump had departed to get to work on a ceasefire between Iran and Israel, but Trump quickly disputed that claim. On his social media platform, Truth Social, the president posted, "Publicity-seeking President Emmanuel Macron of France mistakenly said that I left the G7 summit in Canada to go back to DC to work on a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Wrong. He has no idea."
Honestly, my friends here, I'm Team Donald Trump, because I hate Emmanuel Macron. That is such a bad president, my friends. You guys have no idea. One of the reasons Europe became so weak in the last couple of years, I believe this guy is one of the reasons. I really dislike him.
Back to DC to work on a ceasefire.
I'm not trying to go political, but when it comes to politics in Europe, I guess I'm allowed, so...
between Israel and Iran. Wrong. He has no idea why I'm now on my way to Washington, but it certainly has nothing to do with a ceasefire. Much bigger than that. Whether purposely or not, Emmanuel always gets it wrong. Stay tuned. Trump also...
Did you guys saw that the wife of Emmanuel Macron ended up slapping him, and the guy pretended nothing ended up happening? It's kind of crazy. The guy is awful. Most likely the guy will lose in the next election in France. But that's beside the point. Now, let's talk about Donald Trump here a bit. Again, not trying to go political. You guys know quite more what is going on with the Democrats, with the Republicans, just looking from outside. I actually believe that Donald Trump does not want war. Is my opinion. The guy tries to stop Russia versus Ukraine. The thing is, Putin is not someone that you can trust. And I guess Donald Trump ended up learning that. Donald Trump also tried to stop the situation in Gaza. But Israel, for some reason, also does whatever they want. I'm going to be honest a bit here, my friends. And I think Trump is a bit in a weird situation because I could be wrong, but I believe that he does not want to go to war. And I actually believe most Americans would agree with that. It's a difficult situation. But in other end, I also understand that Israel and America have been partners for so many years. So turning the back to kind of your best friend in the Middle East. My friends, this is where I would love to know your opinion, of course. Look, tell me if I'm being fair, because look, every time I cover these topics, there will be a couple of offended people that will automatically say some BS in the comment section. I never delete anything. Everyone has free speech here, but you guys know how it goes. So tell me if I'm being fair. Tell me if you don't mind me to cover this type of stuff, or even better, just leave me a like and I will keep doing this.
I posted a stark warning to Iranians also on Truth Social. Iran should have signed.
See, this thing, my friends, no matter if you are on the left or on the right, this is true. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Why? Because Iran have great relationship with the Houthis, with Hamas. So can you guys imagine Hamas or something, or some terrorist group like that having those type of weapons? The world would go crazy fast.
Signed the deal I told them to sign.
So this is true. This is a fact. I mean, my friends, there is no way around it.
What a shame and waste of human life. Simply stated, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said it over and over again. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran.
So the thing we can debate here, I guess, is they've been saying that Iran have nuclear weapons for years, or they are close to get nuclear weapons for years. So I guess we can debate that. Maybe they are not that close, but I mean, it's kind of like, if you know it will happen, would you wait until it's almost done? You know what I'm trying to say?
It doesn't get any clearer than that. The US president, in no uncertain terms, is telling the almost 10 million people living in Iran's capital that they need to flee the area right away. There are only two probable explanations. Either the US has intelligence of an upcoming Israeli strike on Tehran with a real risk of civilian casualties, or the US itself is planning an attack on the city. The Israeli military echoed Trump's claims, issuing an urgent warning of its own for the people of Tehran. On X, an Israel Defense Forces spokesperson wrote, "In the coming hours, the IDF will operate in the area, as it has in recent days throughout Tehran, to strike military infrastructure of the Iranian regime. Your presence in this area endangers your life." Even now, as the missile strikes continue back and forth between Israel and Iran, there may still be time for a rapid resolution to the conflict. Tehran has asked.
I'm having a feeling that Iran is not that strong, my friends, because I was looking at the numbers of missiles. Did I say that correct? I hope so. That ended up sending in the first couple of days, and it was impressive. But now the number is quite different. And I think Israel, America are also feeling that this is kind of like the expression. I'm not sure if you guys have this expression in America, but it's kind of like a paper tiger.
Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Oman to press US President Donald Trump to use his influence on Israel to agree to an immediate ceasefire with Iran in return for Iranian flexibility in nuclear negotiations, according to 2 Iranian and 3 regional sources. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has also put the ball in Trump's court, urging the American president to make the correct next steps. In a June 16 X post, he wrote, "If President Trump is genuine about diplomacy and interested in stopping this war, next steps are consequential. Israel must halt its aggression, and absent a total cessation of military aggression against us, our responses will continue. It takes one phone call from Washington to muzzle someone like Netanyahu. That may pave the way for a return to diplomacy." In the same post on X, Araghchi also issued a warning against the US taking an active role in the conflict, stating, Conversely, getting the US mired in the mother of forever wars will destroy any prospect of a negotiated solution, with dangerous, unpredictable, and likely unfathomable consequences for regional security and the global economy.
The real question is this guy still alive? And I'm not even joking here, my friends, because Israel have been killing people at the... also people, but what I'm trying to say is Israel have been killing top leaders of Iran at a crazy pace. I believe the guy that leads the army is the third guy now. The first one gone, the second one gone, now the third. I would never take that job, by the way. Imagine, do you want the job? I would say, no, thank you. No.
Let us not forget, Iran did not begin this war and has no interest in perpetuating bloodshed. But we will proudly fight to the last drop of blood to protect our land, our people, our dignity, and our achievements. The war is at a turning point, and the US has a huge part to play in how it unfolds over the coming days and weeks. It appears, based on the signs outlined throughout the video, that the decision has been made. The US will likely assume an active role in the conflict, using its strategically repositioned assets, including tankers, jets, destroyers, and super carriers, to support Israel and perhaps put an end to its nuclear program by force. But why now? And why should the US get involved rather than leaving Israel to fight its own fight? Well, without official statements and declarations one way or another, there's only room for speculation. But there are several clear and obvious reasons why the US, and President Trump in particular, might decide to go to war with Iran. First, and perhaps most obviously, is the fact that the multiple rounds of talks so far have proven unsuccessful. Trump himself recently admitted that an agreement was less and less of a likely prospect. On June 11, in an interview with the Pod Force One podcast, he was asked if he thought he could convince Iran to end its nuclear program, replying,
I'm getting more and more less confident about it. They seem to be delaying, and I think that's a shame, but I'm less confident now than I would have been a couple of months ago. Something happened to them, but I am much less confident of a deal being made.
But Trump has been adamant right from the start that Iran cannot and will not have a nuclear weapon. And so, if talks aren't enough to make that happen, the only other viable option left is military action. Israel has already started that ball rolling. However, even though Israel has a strong military force, ranked 15th strongest in the world on the Global Firepower Index, one spot ahead of Iran, it doesn't have the necessary firepower to completely wipe out the Iranian nuclear program. This is because Iran has cleverly constructed many of its most important nuclear facilities deep underground, with some being several hundred feet down and others up to half a mile below the surface. The vast majority of
Oh, okay, I was not aware of this. I thought Israel alone may be able, but I guess no. Okay, okay, my train of thought was like this. Okay, they will be able, but this will take maybe 1 year, 2 years. It will go like Ukraine versus Russia, of course, quite different because they are fighting on the ground a lot. But I thought that was a possibility, basically. But I guess unless America really goes in, the problem, basically, the only way to completely destroy the problem is with America.
bombs dropped from above simply aren't powerful enough to reach targets that far down. They can deal plenty of damage to surface targets or those short distances underground, but are unlikely to make even a dent on the most heavily fortified subterranean Iranian bases.
Okay.
The US, however, has one weapon that could, at least in theory, destroy those bases, namely the GBU-57AB MOP, or Massive Ordnance Penetrator, a precision-guided bunker buster bomb that measures more than 20 feet in length and weighs in at a staggering 30,000 pounds.
But that's the only weapon, really? Okay, I thought there was quite more ways to deal with this.
Larger and more destructive than any bunker buster bomb seen before, the GBU-57 has never been used in real-world warfare, but has been extensively tested. These bombs are so big, they can only be deployed by the largest bombers, like B-2 Spirits, and the US notably moved several Spirits towards the Middle East in April of this year, which were later used for missions in Yemen. No GBU-57 bombs were dropped during those missions, and the US military has an unknown number of these bombs stocked up and ready to deploy when the moment comes. That moment might be now, as if the US and Israel truly want to end Iran's nuclear ambitions, they would have to target those underground facilities, and the GBU-57 would be the only known option to deal any sort of serious damage. The US therefore might have to get involved in the conflict out of necessity, and while Trump has clearly strived for a peaceful end to Iran's nuclear program, he may now feel that his hand has been forced. All that remains is wait and see when, where, and how the US chooses to strike. Now, take a look at our breakdown of a worst-case scenario for the Iran-Israel war. We'll learn how
the worst-case scenario will be nuclear weapons, most likely. But yeah, my friends, thank you so much for watching this with me. I have mixed feelings about this, like all of you probably. I think America can defeat them so easy. To be fair, my friends, if Israel is doing what they are doing, but may take some time, may put some pressure when it comes to politics, stuff like that. So I understand this is a difficult decision, and going to war is always tough, no matter what people say. And I believe if you are a president of such a great country like America, going to war, knowing how strong America is, you really have to think about. But yeah, my friends, tell me in the comments what you think. I thought I tried to be the most honest as I can. A lot of people try to hide opinions. I don't when it comes to this. I say what I believe, and sometimes a lot of people disagree, but it is what it is, basically. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this with me. See you guys in the next one. Bye, my friends.